Presented by Edge Radio.
Welcome to a media show on Edge Radio 99.3 FM.
With your hosts with the most, Lochie and Qom. And what do you suggest we talk about today, old friend?
Well, I know we've both recently seen Drop Dead Fred, which is kind of a cult classic. It was released in 1991. At the time, it kind of bombed, but people seem to be enjoying it more and more. It's like a fine wine. It gets better with age.
Yeah, like, I've noticed when, when looking at it from the perspective-wise as a kid and now to an adult, I'm now thinking to myself, well, even though there were a lot of things that I obviously could not understand as a kid because, as kids, we didn't know any better. And you look back at that film in particular and you think, oh my goodness, most of the things just make all the more sense now. Even if some things, aren't as aged, not as finely like wine. Like, for instance, some of the CGI in the movie is, well, not very that great. Even at the time, it was considered to be not the best.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the CGI is probably the thing that lets it down the most.
Yeah, it's one of the major drawbacks.
Absolutely. It's something over practical effects seem to age really well. CGI, definitely not. We'll be looking back in 5 years and it'll all be terrible again. You just get too used to the new.
And speaking of practical effects, I can't help but believe that most of the film's budget would have either gone to one of the characters' houses or a particular scene where they make a completely new head for Fred, if you will.
Absolutely. They had when she enters her own mind, that's kind of a beautiful set as well, I thought. Some of the larger practical sets are really nice and quirky.
Yeah, at the end of the movie, it gave off, what's the thing? Gave off kind of like a more mature Alice in Wonderland type of feel, where you had to more or less confront your fears as an adult, I feel. And I felt that was very nice, and being with those fears can sometimes stick with you from being a kid, and I felt that was really nice of the movie.
Absolutely. We haven't really summed up the premise. Let me give a little summary here.
Yeah, we do apologise. Allow us to explain.
Essentially, it's a movie about this adult who she's going through some trauma in her life, and her imaginary friend appears, and he's there to kind of comfort her and return her on the journey of mischief and having fun. And really, it's about accepting yourself. And she used to have this imaginary friend who
goes by the name of, well, you guessed it, Drop Dead Fred.
Absolutely.
Played by Rick Mail, and the main character is played by Phoebe Cates. Originally, I found out she was from Gremlins 2.
Oh, okay. I didn't pick up on that.
No, I actually found that out on the, I believe it's the worldwide DVD cover. I found it on the back, and it was trying to heavily advertise all of the main actors' previous work. Like, for example, Rick Mail, they would try to advertise Bottom and the Young Ones. For Phoebe Cates, it was, well, Gremlins 2. And funnily enough, they had Carrie Fisher in the movie. And, well, she's famous enough from Star Wars.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was surprised to see. I hadn't seen it in a long time, so I was surprised to see Carrie Fisher in it.
Yeah, it was... it was a funny sight seeing her, but it was still good nonetheless.
Absolutely. I was also reading about they originally wanted Tim Burton and Robin Williams, either of them to direct the film. But both of them thought, it's not quite our style. So they got an unusual Dutch director, I think it's Ant de Jong, to direct it. And I hadn't heard of any of his other works apart from this, but I thought it was a pretty good job.
I believe this is his work that I've only just have heard of, really. And I might have to do some research later on just to see if that's the case.
Yeah, we might have to test out his other films and see if it's consistently good.
It's like the guy. It reminds me of the guy who directed Batman and Robin. What was his name? Trying to think of the.
I know Tim Burton produced that one.
Oh no, I'm talking like the really considered bad one with George Clooney and Arnold Schwarzenegger with the puns.
Yeah,
the ice
yeah.
puns.
I have no idea who directed that one, honestly.
I think it was. Now I will be corrected if I'm wrong with this. Rajel Gusnell.
Oh, okay.
Now I
Interesting.
can't believe if that. Now, yeah, it reminds me a lot of that where. If you view it as a underrated cult classic, then you're gonna may not know these directors that well, and then it's like, oh, okay, well, you either got ones that make not so great ones and ones that, well, like Qom said, age like fine wine. And like you said earlier, and speaking of things you said earlier, you mentioned that it didn't do so well to begin with, and it's when it first released after in cinemas.
Yeah, I was surprised at that, I guess. Yeah, I'm not sure why it has kind of increased in fame over the years. I guess for whatever reason, I do think the issue is it's kind of it has all the cliches of, say, a children's film,
Oh,
but it's
yeah.
probably the themes of an adult movie where she's
And-
going through all this trauma, relationships in her life with her family. And I think as a kid, I didn't quite get it at all. I just thought, oh, Drop Dead Fred is funny, bouncing around the room and doing stupid things.
Just acting like a Tom and Jerry character, all slapstick.
Yeah, so I don't know, maybe if it was like a marketing issue, because it sits in this weird in-between where...
Where it's like if they couldn't decide where to stick with towards, which ends up not only leading with a messy plot, but I can't help but think that audiences, I guess, well, not ready to accept it wouldn't be the right term for it, but I guess didn't see it in a light that we, of course, now see movies like this today.
Yeah, it's... I think maybe we're more open to kind of these sorts of ideas, I guess, or we've seen so many different movies now that, this isn't as absurd or unusual as maybe it was when it originally came out. It's been about 30 years.
Again, this reminds me of almost like when, again, so relating to Star Wars, Episode 1 came out, the hype was, well, of course, massive. Like, it was everywhere. And when it came out, everybody was mixed about it. Oh, because of one particular character, but I will not say who.
Yeah, I do think maybe there's this sense of nostalgia as well. I kind of watched it and I thought, this is a good story of good versus evil. There's not much grey in between. And I think now a lot of our films they have a lot of grey. The main character might be both good and evil, sitting in the middle. And I kind of miss this. I just want a straight up story of light versus dark. And I think Drop Dead Fred felt like this. It was a very nice character put in kind of a world of chaos or a world of hell. She's just has to accept herself and, free herself from all these things around her.
Whereas Phoebe Cates' character tries to, more or less try to go through her adult life as a normal person. Fred is there to remind her more or less, well, I'm here to remind you that as much as you would like to change it, you can't. And to be honest, it's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of
Some things it's like we have to learn to accept that. And if we don't, we may lose track of some things. But it's okay,
Yeah, Fred's really getting herself to stop bowing down to everyone else and stop hating yourself for your own flaws. I found it was an interesting one.
In particular, with the supposed love interest of the story, Charles, which he, well, for the most part, is predicted as like a rich guy that every girl of their dreams wants, but we'll say he's just not that much of a loyal guy.
He's a sleaze bag.
Very sleazy, if I say.
Absolutely. Will we ever see a sequel, Lochie? I always like asking this question.
As much as I personally would love to see a sequel, I highly doubt we ever would get a sequel because, unfortunately, in 2014, the main actor of the film, Rick Mail, unfortunately passed away in 2014.
Tragic. I suppose Carrie Fisher's gone as well. I don't know what Phoebe Cates doing.
Yeah, I'm not sure what Phoebe Cates is up to, and of course they can't bring back Carrie Fisher, so yeah, that's I'd
have to CGI them all.
gonna have to do what they did with Star Wars. Always finding myself back to Star Wars, like how they face model Mark Hamill's face to make him look younger again or something.
Yeah, they've almost perfected that sort of thing. They're getting close. Rather than going on break, we might talk about Yolo, Crystal Castle. So, Yolo, it's by Michael Cusack.
Yes, correct.
Australian animator. He was behind Koala Man, Smiling Friends, which we've talked about in the past.
And personally, to me, most famously, a very old YouTube video that simply goes by the name of Damo and Darren, which predicts two bogans, if you will, sitting at what is known to be the worst train station in Australia.
Hey, Siggy Butt Brain.
What are you doing, mate? All just about asking for a cigarette. The simplicity and yet remarkable detail of it is just beautiful. Still remains to be one of my favourite pieces of media of all time.
It's, absolutely beautiful. Captures the Australian spirit perfectly.
Michael Cusack, the creator of Yolo, really knows how to put that into perspective in the wildest... I'm not sure what the right word of that is, but he certainly knows what he's doing when it comes to humour, and I personally think it's my type of humour all around.
Yeah, it's... He takes maybe the everyday situations
the
and
everyday
he kind of makes
situation
them absurd as possible or accelerates them towards the wall, I think.
Yeah, just like put this idea right here of just your regular everyday normal tasks like washing the dishes or something, and boom, it's the most epic sci-fi quest you could possibly imagine of retrieving a golden artifact of power beyond our wildest dreams, something like that. So Yolo basically takes that approach and says, fudge it, let's go all out.
So it's essentially about two middle-aged women. They remind me of Kath and Kim a lot.
Yeah, they kind of do have a Kath and Kim feel. And I noticed that you mentioned that when you first saw the show, you mentioned to me that it gave off the vibe of two middle-aged women past their prime that still believe they're attractive.
Yeah, the hottest things on two legs.
Which I can agree on, which, yeah, that is funny and a little bit true in a way.
Yeah, they're interesting characters in that way, I think, that we probably don't usually get shown, or that are usually the main protagonists, essentially.
We've got Sarah, who essentially is the main character. She's... well, the most normal, if you can think of, in this crazy, backwards Australian town, if you will. And then you've got her, quote-unquote, best friend, Rachel, who is the spawn of the devil. She is the party animal of the demon.
So there's 2 seasons of this show. There's Crystal Castle and then Silver...
I think it's Crystal Fantasy and Silver Destiny, I believe.
Absolutely right. My bad.
No, you're right. And the show tries to explore a lot of different art styles, visuals, and effects,
Yeah.
which I thought was such a treat for me to look at, and just a lot of eye candy all around if you're a big fan of animation as a whole.
Yeah. I think most people who are into adult animation would really get a kick out of this show.
And the fact that it's a very relatable Australian type of feeling just adds more sprinkles to the top of the cherry of this delicious sundae.
Absolutely. Will we see a third season, do you think, Lochie?
I think we genuinely might, because there is a bit of a cliffhanger. I won't not say anything for you because you haven't finished it yet.
Still a couple episodes short, yeah.
But there is a cliffhanger at the end of the second season, so there very well could be a possibility of getting a third season.
And it's been a little while since season 2 came out, but I guess animation takes a little longer. And
with Michael Cusack having to go on coincide work with Smiling Friends, it's a little more clearer to me personally why it's not exactly out, being that it's just, well, he could be busy. He's a busy man, and he's getting all the big leagues now, where he was just a simple popular YouTuber to now someone who is getting multimedia jobs like it's nothing.
he's made it. Yeah, he's on Adult Swim.
He's made it on Adult Swim.
Yeah, he's over in America.
He's got a TV show with one of a kind Aussie legend, Hugh Jackman himself.
It's very impressive.
Yeah, it's very
Seeing Aussie
great.
make it in Hollywood.
Yeah, it's
Doing well.
very beautiful how Michael's career is going up, and it's amazing seeing how much progression he's gone from to being a guy on YouTube making two guys at a train station to now where he is today. Like, it truly is beautiful.
Yeah. That's the other thing, is he was originally just a YouTube animator, and he's now making, multiple season shows, multiple shows at one time.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Gives me a bit of hope for ourselves. We'll be there soon.
And a glamoring hope for adult animation as a whole,
Yeah.
which I hope can, I guess, not further be exploited, but more or less explored, if you will.
Absolutely. We might have to wrap it up here. You're listening to Media Shower on Edge Radio 99.3 FM.
We hope you had a good time, and we hope you have a good rest of your day.